Hello, welcome to the Health Breakdown. As we grow older, it's natural for our bodies to go through changes. We move a little slower, feel a little stiffer in the morning, and sometimes we notice that we're not quite as strong as we used to be. But here's something important. Just because aging is a part of life doesn't mean we have to surrender our strength or independence. Too many people believe that muscle loss is just something they have to accept with age, like it's an unchangeable part of growing older. But I'm here to tell you, that's simply not true. What often gets overlooked is that muscle isn't just about lifting heavy things or going to the gym. It's about walking steadily, getting out of a chair easily, carrying your groceries without help, or even just playing with your grandkids without feeling worn out. These everyday movements depend on muscle, and when it starts to fade, life starts to feel a little smaller. That's not the life any of us deserve to live. Not when there are simple, effective ways to support our bodies and turn things around. Many seniors have quietly resigned themselves to this idea that they'll keep losing strength year after year. But what if I told you that regaining muscle is not only possible, it can start with one small but powerful change? Not a complicated routine or expensive treatment, but something as straightforward as adding the right food into your daily meals. That's right, a single nutrient-dense food, when made a consistent part of your lifestyle, can help your body rebuild, recover, and even regain some of the vitality you thought was lost for good. The truth is, our bodies are remarkably resilient. Even in our later years, we're capable of repair, growth, and transformation if we give ourselves the tools we need. It all starts with making intentional choices, and often, those choices can be as simple as what we put on our plate. By fueling your body with the right kind of nourishment, you're not just eating to survive, you're eating to thrive, to move with ease, to stand taller, and to feel stronger than you have in years. I've seen the shift that can happen when someone discovers that they're not powerless against the effects of aging. That spark of confidence that returns when they realize they can get up from a chair without struggle, or walk longer distances without fear of fatigue. It's more than just physical. It's a mental and emotional lift that carries over into every part of life. And that journey toward strength, toward reclaiming your body, begins with something as modest as a single, nutrient-rich food. It's never too late to make a change, especially one that can change everything. One of the most common and quiet struggles that comes with getting older is something many of us don't talk about often. You wake up one day and realize that you're not as steady on your feet. Maybe the stairs feel steeper than they used to, or the walk to the end of the driveway seems longer than it was just a few months ago. It happens gradually, so slowly that you almost don't notice it, until suddenly you do. That creeping loss of strength, that shrinking of energy, that moment when you start depending on the arms of the chair to get up, it all begins to feel like just a normal part of aging. But here's the truth. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal, and it certainly doesn't mean it has to be permanent. When your muscles start fading, it doesn't just affect how strong you feel. It affects how confident you are in your own body. You begin to second-guess movements you once did without a second thought. You may avoid walks, outings, even time with loved ones, simply because you're unsure if your body can keep up. That's not just a physical burden. It's an emotional one, too. It can feel like your world is shrinking, and that's something nobody should have to live with. But I want to remind you that even if you've been feeling that way, you haven't missed your chance to make a change. The body is an incredible thing. No matter your age, it's still capable of rebuilding strength. And believe it or not, you don't need to start with a complete lifestyle overhaul. You don't need a gym membership or a complicated program. You just need one simple, powerful step in the right direction. That first step begins with what you eat. Just one specific nutrient-packed food can be the turning point in helping your body reclaim its strength, rebuild muscle, and restore that feeling of control you may have thought was long gone. You see, when you start feeding your muscles with what they truly need, they begin to respond. Slowly but surely, things get easier standing, walking, lifting, moving. And it's not just about muscle, it's about freedom. Freedom to enjoy life, to stay active, to play with your grandkids, to garden, to travel, to simply live without hesitation. That's what's at stake, and that's why it matters. Every small effort counts, and when you combine intention with the right kind of support, the results can be life-changing. You deserve to feel strong, to feel steady, and to feel like yourself again. And the best part is, the journey back to strength doesn't start with something complicated. It starts with something as simple as the food you choose. Now I know when people hear the words regain muscle or get stronger, they immediately imagine a long, exhausting list of things they need to do. Maybe they picture intense workouts, expensive supplements, complicated meal plans, or routines that feel out of reach. And I understand that, because when we're told that change requires doing more, it can feel overwhelming, especially when your energy isn't what it used to be. But what if I told you that building back your strength doesn't need to be complicated at all? What if the path to feeling stronger, steadier, and more energized could start with just one thing? One simple, powerful food you can add to your meals each day. That's not a fantasy, it's the truth. You see, the body doesn't always need a complete overhaul to begin healing and rebuilding. Sometimes what it needs is a single, steady source of the right fuel. And when that fuel comes in the form of a nutrient-dense food, something natural, something whole, it's like handing your body the tools it's been waiting for. It doesn't take long before the effects start to show. A little more strength in your arms, a bit more balance in your step. Maybe getting out of a chair isn't quite as hard as it was the week before. The beauty of this approach is in its simplicity. You don't need to worry about counting calories or following a long list of instructions. You don't need to buy a bunch of things or turn your life upside down. You just need to commit to adding this one essential food to your routine. Day by day, meal by meal, it becomes a natural part of how you take care of yourself. And that's when the shift happens quietly, gently, but powerfully. This isn't about perfection, it's about consistency. It's about choosing something small that fits into your life, something that doesn't feel like a burden, but rather a gift you give yourself each day. And when you see that one simple choice beginning to make a difference in how you feel, it builds momentum. You start to believe in your body again. You start to trust that strength is still within reach. And suddenly, instead of feeling like you're losing ground, you feel like you're gaining it back. So yes, it really can be just one food, one addition to your plate that supports your muscles, fuels your recovery, and helps you take back what time has tried to steal. You don't need 10 solutions, you just need one good one, done with intention and done with care. And when you start there, you'll be amazed at what your body is still capable of. We often underestimate the quiet power of what we eat. We think of food as something we just need to get through the day: breakfast, lunch, dinner, done. But what if we looked at food not just as fuel, but as a form of care, a way to support our body in doing what it was built to do even as we age? The truth is, as we get older, our nutritional needs change. Our muscles, our bones, our energy, they all start asking for something a little different, something more targeted. And if we ignore those needs, it's no surprise that we start to feel weaker, more tired, or a little unsteady. But here's the beautiful part: when we listen and respond to our body's needs with the right kind of nourishment, the changes can be remarkable. You don't need to overhaul your entire diet. This isn't about rules or restrictions or tracking every bite. It's about identifying just one food, one powerful, nutrient-rich food that your body truly benefits from. Something that isn't processed or artificial, but real and supportive. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it does have to be consistent. Because the body responds best to what it receives regularly, not what it gets once in a while. When you give your body something it can truly use, it begins to respond almost like it's been waiting for it. Muscles begin to recover a little faster. Tasks that once felt tiring start to feel a little easier. You begin to feel more alert, more engaged, and bit by bit, more like yourself again. It's not magic. It's nourishment, and sometimes that's all the body has been asking for. We spend a lot of time in life looking for complex answers, but often the most effective solutions are the simplest ones. A single nutrient-dense food can play a bigger role in restoring strength than most people realize. It provides the building blocks your muscles need to repair and rebuild. It supports your energy, your balance, and even your motivation to move more. Because when your body feels supported from within, you naturally start doing more of the things that keep you active and engaged in life. So when you sit down to your next meal, think about what you're giving your body. Ask yourself if it's something that feeds your strength, that supports your goals, that helps you stay independent and energized. Because the right food doesn't just fill your stomach, it strengthens your foundation, and it all starts with making one intentional choice. One food, one change, one step toward strength. One of the most powerful things I've seen over and over again is the way someone's entire spirit can shift when they start to feel strong again. And I don't just mean physically strong, though that's part of it. I'm talking about that inner strength, that quiet confidence that shows up when you realize you're not at the mercy of aging. That moment when you stop saying, "I can't," and start saying, "Maybe I still can," it changes everything. I've watched people who once felt defeated take one small step, make one small change, and begin to feel alive in a way they hadn't in years. You see, when you feel steady on your feet, when your body listens and responds to you, you feel like yourself again. And that's something we all deserve. That sense of dignity, of control, of independence. It's not something you lose just because more birthdays have passed. It's something you can fight for, and the fight doesn't have to be hard. It can begin with something as simple as what you choose to put on your plate. Because when you nourish your body with the right food, the kind of food that supports your muscles, gives you energy, and keeps you moving, you begin to see that aging doesn't mean giving up. It means adjusting. It means listening to your body and giving it what it needs to keep going strong. And once your body starts responding, your mind follows, you walk a little taller, you move through your day with a little more ease, and you start to believe again in what's possible. I've had people come up to me and say they thought their days of strength were behind them, that they had accepted their decline as inevitable. And then, with just one change, just one shift in their habits, they began to notice something different. They had more pep in their step, less fear of falling, more confidence in everyday tasks that used to leave them tired or uncertain. That kind of change doesn't just affect how you move, it affects how you live. You start saying yes to things you used to avoid. Maybe you go on that walk with your neighbor again. Maybe you stand at the stove and cook a meal from scratch. Maybe you finally pick up the phone and plan that weekend with the grandkids. These may seem like small wins to some, but to the person living through them, they are everything. They represent freedom, independence, and the return of something deeply personal, hope. That's what one food, one thoughtful choice can lead to. Not just a stronger body, but a fuller life. Because once you start to feel strong on the outside, you start to feel unshakable on the inside. Sometimes, the hardest part of making a change is knowing where to begin. There's so much information out there, books, ads, advice from every direction, that it can feel overwhelming. You end up with more questions than answers. But what if I told you that the first step doesn't have to be complicated? In fact, it could be as simple as asking one question: what's the one thing I can add to my life today that will support my strength tomorrow? That's where curiosity comes in, that quiet little spark that says, I wonder if this could help me. That's the beginning of something powerful. I've seen it happen many times. Someone hears about one food, just one, that has the nutrients their muscles are craving, and at first, they're skeptical. They wonder, how could something so simple make a difference? But they try it. Not with a dramatic overhaul, not with some perfect plan, but just with a willingness to try. And that willingness, that openness, is what sets everything in motion. Because when you approach your health with curiosity instead of fear, you open the door to new possibilities. It starts with a single bite. Maybe you add it to breakfast. Maybe it becomes a part of your lunch. Day by day, it becomes part of your routine. You're not doing anything extreme. You're simply feeding your body something it recognizes and knows how to use. And then, quietly, your body begins to respond. You feel a little more solid getting out of bed. You notice your arms don't tire as quickly when lifting something. You feel more balanced on your feet. That little spark of curiosity begins to grow into something bigger, confidence. That's what I want you to hold on, to the idea that something small can lead to something greater. You don't need to figure everything out right now. You don't need a 10-step program or a perfect diet. You just need the willingness to take that first step. And once you do, you'll begin to understand how one food, one carefully chosen, nutrient-rich food, can change how you feel, how you move, and how you live. That kind of change isn't loud or flashy. It's steady. It builds day by day, meal by meal, and before you know it, you're not just maintaining your health, you're improving it. And here's the thing, this one food, it isn't some exotic, hard-to-find secret. It's likely something you've passed by in the grocery store without realizing what it could do for you. That's why I say curiosity matters. It gets you to pause, to wonder, to try. And in that moment of trying, you may discover something that brings you strength, energy, and the kind of freedom you thought was behind you. Because in the end, sometimes the biggest changes in life begin with the smallest, most curious decisions.